love you too. Vegeta is one of the most beloved, if not the most beloved characters in Dragon Ball because he's one of the most relatable. All of us as human beings, we experience anger, we experience prideful moments, and then eventually we get past it, hopefully, and become great friends and great fathers and mothers to our children and great people. And Vegeta certainly has done that. Well, tonight we are blessed with not one, not two, but three gentlemen, legends in my opinion, who have portrayed the character of the Prince for the past 3 or so decades. So they're all here tonight. So everybody in this building right now, this is our main event. We are going to legitimately make history.
No running, folks. Please just take it easy.
We're bringing more people in, by the way, but I'm still starting the panel. So anyways, we are making history. This is the Prince of all panels, as we have 3 Vegetas who are going to share their wisdom and knowledge in portraying the Prince for all of us. So, without any further ado, it is time to bring them out. Are you ready? First, representing the Great White North, he has voiced Vegeta since 1996, and he's been on so many cartoons, I can't even list them all for you. The creator of over 9,000, really the OG of this character when it came to the English-speaking fandom. Please welcome, with love and admiration, Mr. Brian Drummond. In 1999, when Funimation took the Dragon Ball Z dub in-house, a great talent was found, one who is a man of many voices, and one of the voices of your childhood. Man who took over as Vegeta and has portrayed the character since 1999, star of several Dragon Ball Z movies, every Dragon Ball Z, GT, and Super episode, who needs no introduction, an ambassador. He is the personification of Dragon Ball in the Western Hemisphere. Please welcome Christopher Sabat. We've got the United States, and then of course there's Japan. He has voiced in many video games and television shows, but I believe his Hall of Fame career will always be crowned as being the Prince of all Saiyans since 1989. Please welcome, with all of your love, Ryo Horikawa. How y'all doing?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. There's a lot of people earlier. I just can't get over that.
Doesn't matter what dub you prefer, which one you watch, it's history either way. So, I'm happy we're here. So, I'm gonna start with a kind of a simple question for all you guys. What is the one thing about Vegeta's character from beginning to end that you have taken sort of, and you're basically, what is the thing you admire most about the character of Vegeta?
Can I ask the audience? I'm joking. Can I use my lifeline?
Phone a friend?
I think the thing I love about Vegeta the most, the thing that I'm really proud of to be able to play this character for, is he has had the most change over the series of any other character. Someone was coming up earlier, they're like, hey, do you like Piccolo or Vegeta more? And I go, well, okay, let's talk about Vegeta's backstory. He had a really crummy childhood. He was like raised by a king. It was a like horrible planet where they destroyed things and like, and it was taken over by someone else. The planet was destroyed, and then he kind of meets somebody. His son comes from the future, blah, 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 blah. And then he has a wife and blah, blah, and all these things happen to him. And then Piccolo, he comes from an egg. That's it. So it's just, what I love about Vegeta is he's constantly adapting and he's becoming such a better person that it's hard to believe that at the beginning of the series, I have to remind myself and some people like, wow, you guys all, you let your kids watch, like wear Vegeta shirts and stuff. That dude killed people. Like, he killed Nappa just for sucking or something like that. I think, so it's just his ability to kind of adapt and change and just to become a better person is what I love about him.
As a performer, and I don't know if I can speak for everybody, for myself, what I love is a character that has nuance. So a villain or a hero, someone who's always the same, always just a badass, the bad guy, is not nearly as interesting as a performer as a character that has nuance, that has change. And that was the first word that came to me, and you basically explained it, is there's change and a journey. That you want them to start somewhere and go somewhere. That's always so much more exciting to me. And then you get sucked in and drawn into what's happening to them when they're struggling, when they're in pain, when they're filled with anger, when they're filled with pride, when they want to fight, when they want to run. And with Vegeta, it's all there. And that's what's so fun to play a character like that.
僕も今彼らと同じかもしれませんけれど、どんどん成長していく人としてというか、そこが素敵だなと思いますね。最初は本当にすごくヒールで悪いやつだったんだけれど、どんどんそれが変わっていって人間的に成長していって、自分のためにしか今まで戦ってなかったのが初めて家族を守るため、あるいは他の人を守るために戦うという、どんどんそういう方向に変わっていくところにやっぱり魅力を感じるかなと思います。
I feel the same as Brian and Chris, that the growth that he had was wonderful. I guess the most wonderful thing about his character. And he grew as a person, and he also grew in his strength as well. He started out as such an evil guy, and then he evolved into someone who wasn't just fighting for himself anymore, but fighting for others, fighting for his family, fighting to protect things. So that was a really wonderful thing to portray.
We know that Mr. Sabat watched Mr. Drummond. My question is, Mr. Drummond, did you ever get a chance to watch back then Mr. Sabat's performance as Vegeta after you had done it first? And then my other question is, Mr. Horikawa, when did you first check out any of the English dubs? This sucks.
Wow, that's an excellent question.
You better answer this well, by the way.
Yeah. Well, anytime a role moves away from you to someone else, a performer is bound to be curious as to how it all comes together. And knowing that Chris initially had to copy it to his best ability what I was doing, I don't know if I thought he did a very good job. When it's your own voice and you hear someone else doing it, you don't know if it sounds the same as what you're doing. I will say, I love what Chris does right now with Vegeta, and had I thought of a voice anywhere near as with what you do, I would have done it in a heartbeat. But I can't do that voice, so I had to go with something far more princely, I would say. But I you know what? Everyone always wondered, what was it like? Did he tick you off? No, I was a working guy. I was working on other shows, and I was just, after when I first heard some of the work, I was pumped that it was still good. I think I was more worried that the show was gonna be bad and falter and not be any good, but everything I've seen of it, I've loved. The fan base for years I've loved, and it's just been a hoot to be a part of it. Absolutely.
Oh, sorry. I watched the Canadian version, obviously, because I had to copy this guy. And for many years, I had two layers of trying to be humble about this role. Because there was the Japanese layer of, well, I'm not the original Japanese voice. And then there was this layer of, well, I'm not even the original English-speaking voice of this show. And I was terrified because when we took over for the Canadian cast, we were just this tiny little studio in North Texas, kind of trying to throw something together, and we had taken these roles from veterans in this industry. I mean, Vancouver is just known for its stellar voice work, and so I was terrified of even trying to keep up with the legacy that he had already created for the character, and also not to freak out all the 6- and 7-year-olds who were watching the show that suddenly had all their voices changed. And it meant a lot to me when Brian came up. Like, I met him as soon as we got here, because it was the first chance I've ever gotten to meet him in person. One of the things he said to me was like, man, you did a pretty good job copying me. How long did it take you before you decided you weren't going to do that anymore? And was it like a conscious change, or did you just change it because it just sort of fell down or something? It just sort of dropped and got closer to your voice. And I told him that it was my conscious effort to kind of go from copying someone to actually playing a character, because it's I just didn't want to end up spending my entire life copying the same voice. I wanted it to be something that I could really work with. And if I have to copy something and act on top of that, it's just an extra layer that you didn't need. So I did. And if you can compare Vegeta, a picture of him from the beginning of the series, to a picture at the end of the series, you can tell he goes through a powerful transformation. He grows like testicles between his eyes. Yeah, it was a huge shoes, and I started hearing his voice when we started working on the games, because originally we were recording in a vacuum, and we never got to hear the original voices. But then I was like, oh darn it, this guy's amazing too. And yeah, I've always had such reverence for Ryo, and I've heard all of his performances on every game and every show since like 2002, and it's always an honor to be around him.
のをやっているベジータがドラゴンボールは見たことあるんですけれど、最初はやっぱり全然違うタイプですよね、声としてはね。でもそれをずっとこう聞いてるというか、芝居を見ていると、シリーズを見ているとどんどんなんていうのかな、ショーが難しい言い方すればいい意味で変わっていく。でどんどんそれがオリジナルになっていくっていうことをすごく感じるんで、そこら辺がやっぱり素敵だなというふうに思いますね。2人ともオリジナルになっている、自分なりのオリジナルになっているというところが自分のものになっている。
So I've actually seen Dragon Ball in English before, and although their voices are very different, they're very different in a very good way, and they both turn them into their own voices, and that's a really fantastic thing that they were able to do.
それぞれの彼ら2人のものにベジータをしているというところがだから生きてるんじゃないかなと思いますね。
They both took Vegeta's voice, made it their own, and make him come alive.
There's so much mutual respect here, it's awesome. So, one of the, I don't know if you want to call it lost treasures or mysteries or whatever that, I don't know how many people here know about this, but there actually exists somewhere in Canada, somewhere, an ocean dub of Kai. But nobody knows where it's at. Like, for real, it's like a big mystery. Brian told me they recorded for it. We don't know where it's at. My question, and this is for everyone, is when you guys came back to portray Vegeta and Kai, now that you knew the entire character arc of the character from beginning to end, how did that affect your performance doing the early episodes? Did you know he was, because you knew he was going to turn good eventually and be a father and all that, did that change how you approach the character this time?
I'll tell you the only thing that changed for me, I was on a lot more shows and pretty busy. Early when I started Dragon Ball Z, it was one of the first few voiceover projects I had, so I was just screaming my guts out for it. You guys heard some of the early stuff, that just the power stuff I would never do now, because that was the one and only time I've lost my voice in voiceover, was after an 8-hour session. And then they've changed the rules, we're only allowed to do 4-hour sessions now. But back then we could do 8-hour session as Vegeta and had nothing left. I went out to dinner that night with friends and it was, there was nothing left. I just don't do that anymore. So the first thing I asked when I heard this DBZ Kai was coming was, I know the show, what's different about it? And they said, the fights are shorter. Yes! That was all I cared about. The fights are shorter, I'm in.
Yeah, the greatest thing about working on Kai for us as a studio and for all the actors, I can speak, I think, on behalf of everyone who worked on that show. The best thing we got to do was really to go back and perfect some of the things that weren't right about the original. Like I tell everybody, like, go back and watch the orange boxes if you want nostalgia, if you want to remember your childhood. Like if you want to hear cats love food, watch that. And there's nothing wrong with it, it's just its own thing. But we finally got to go back and work on Kai, where we really got to dial in the correct translation and really accurate writing, and got to tell the story for people who may have wanted to hear it more like the original. And we tried to keep the same flavor along the way, but our main goal this time around was really to make it sound as accurate as possible to the original Japanese while keeping kind of our English flavor to it. Also, when do you ever get a chance to go back and do something that you did 10 years ago again? Like, there's nothing wrong with it, nothing can be bad about that. That's the best, coolest thing, other than it being completely vocally stressful, and I think all of us were in a different place career-wise at that point. It's always nice to be able to go back and get a second chance to do something that you know is beloved like that.
Mr. Horikawa. Oh, the question was, when he came back to voice Vegeta and Kai, knowing what the character arc was, where the character was going, how did he approach that performance versus the first time? Especially for Mr. Horikawa, they were doing it as the series was going on. Toriyama was still writing the manga as the anime was airing. He had no idea how it was going to end, but when Kai came around, he had already done it, so he knew that he approached the character differently this go around, because he knew what was going to happen. Maybe I rambled there too much.
僕の中では別に変えてるつもりはないんですけれど、 僕はでも気が付いてないかもしれないです。それはね、他の人が、聞いてる人や見てる人がどんどん変わっていってるなっていうふうに思うかもしれませんし、自分の中では意識してないんですけれど、聞く人によってはそんなふうに違ってきてるのかもしれない。それはまあ人間としてこう成長してきてるからっていうところもあるのかもしれないです。Sorry.
Recording Kai, I didn't intentionally try to do anything different, though maybe unconsciously my performance was different. I've heard other people say that it was different, but it's not because I tried to make it different based on any knowledge that I had of the series. It's just kind of changed on its own.
And if I may say something, as a guy who's heard every line of yours over and over again multiple times, you did a wonderful job on Kai, and your job on Super blows me away. This man, he is a legendary voice actor in Japan. If he just wanted to phone it in and just not do anything, if he just wanted to go, ha, or whatever, he could have. But I believe your reads in Super are better than anything you even did in the series. Like, it's amazing, you really brought it. It's incredible.
Okay, so Vegeta tragically has died twice in Dragon Ball Z. Now, we never got to hear Mr. Drummond's performance as Vegeta dying the first time because with the original Ocean dub, they skipped from episode 53 to 123, I believe. And there is no Ocean Frieza saga unless somebody can find those tapes of the Kai version or whatever. But the question I'm asking is more so for Mr. Sabat and Mr. Horikawa is, when you came back to do Kai and you did both Vegeta's deaths on Namek when Frieza killed him and Vegeta's deaths by his own hands against Majin Buu, was your performance at that point, like, did you try to put more emotion into it? Were you cognizant of making changes for that, just those two moments? And also, which of the two deaths do you think was more important for the character? Is that too much?
No, not at all. Let's see. The first time we recorded Dragon Ball Z, I was a much younger actor, and remember, like 10 years have passed, and I feel like my my acting arsenal and my skills had improved exponentially over the years. So I'm not going to say that I worked any harder on Kai, but I do believe that my skill set was greater on Kai than it was the first time around. I didn't treat it any less seriously, but I felt like my instincts were really refined at that point, and I was able to do more nuanced things with it than I was in the original. Also with Kai, we were recording over a longer period of time, so as opposed to the original series, as he was talking about, you'd go in and record for 8, 10, 12 hours a day. My voice wasn't as torn up as it was in the original, so I don't know. I feel like I just tried to make good choices like I would on any show. As for which death was more important to Vegeta, I think anyone who's seen any footage of me talking about Dragon Ball before, the Majin Vegeta is my favorite part of the whole series. I think Vegeta's death was more important to Goku when he died at the hands of Frieza, because that kind of awoke Goku's sensibilities. But when Frieza died against Buu, he sacrificed himself. That was his choice. Like, he chose to do that. And so I felt that was really important for his character and really important for the beginning of his change, you know.
そうですね、死ぬということが例えば、物事を行って失敗するということだと思うんですね。失敗してもまたやり直しができる。2回目の人生を始めて、でまた3回目でもまた違う成功に向かって突き進んでいく。そういう意味では非常に幸せな男だなと思います、ベジータって。 何度も何度もこの失敗をしてももう一度チャレンジするというそういう機会が与えられるんでそこは面白いなと思いますね。じゃあサメ
I guess with Vegeta's death, they kind of represented a failure, but he still had the chance to do things over and have a new life for himself. So really after dying twice, he had like a third chance at life, and at that point he became a happier man, but he still has many challenges and opportunities to keep aiming for.
So let's talk about copy Vegeta. So in the Japanese version, Mr. Horikawa voiced both Vegeta and copy Vegeta, but in the Dragon Ball Super English dub, Mr. Drummond made his grand return to voice copy Vegeta. I've noticed the Super dub does things like that. For example, during the Universe 6 arc, Chris Ayers' brother Greg Ayers plays Frost. So it's kind of like a little wink to the fans. Even though Greg Ayers is a great voice actor, it's still kind of like, oh, that's his brother, his Universe 6 counterpart. We've heard Brian's version of how I got the call. So Chris, did you, when that arc came, did you say, I want Brian? Was like, how did that what was your side of contacting him to bring him back and that whole story?
I'll be honest, it wasn't premeditated. Like I didn't have the idea like months in advance. He can tell you how much time we had from the time I actually called him to do this and the time of the session had to happen. It wasn't much. It was like about a week. Because in some ways I was kind of dreading the copy Vegeta arc because I was disappointed that Vegeta didn't get to fight Vegeta as much. Like I really wanted him to fight himself a little bit more. The only thing I found interesting, the thing I found at least the most interesting was Vegeta having a difficult time knowing who he wanted to root for when Copy was fighting Goku. But I was about a week out, I needed to record the show, and I'm like, I just wanted this but the engineers were like, hey, do you want to add effect to his voice? Do you want to do something kind of interesting with it? And then suddenly one day I'm like, you know what, I gotta get Brian Drummond to do this. This would be amazing. Like, because the thing I've heard so many of you say to me when I come to conventions is, you know, this is the thing of your childhood. This is, and a lot of you, I know how you must have felt when you were really young and you were 6 or 7, 8 years old, and then the voices just radically changed overnight, and you just had to kind of go, all right, I'm going to deal with it. But the thought to actually put a copy Vegeta on a voice that I originally copied, I thought was so meta. And the idea of giving fans just that sound that they remember from their childhood was going to be such a profound thing. I couldn't resist it, and it turned out better than I could have possibly imagined. It was so awesome.
It was a fun call to get. Chris and I had, tweeted a couple times back and forth about some stuff, and I think you mentioned a couple months earlier, hey, maybe we should get together for beers, or if something come up, would you maybe want to do something? And I was like, I don't know how that would work, and I'm not sure. And as he said, it was short notice when he said, there's this part. He's another Vegeta, sort of a purple slimy one, but and would you be interested? I said, I'm on a lot of other shows, so I was trying to figure out how I would fit it in, and I mentioned, maybe I'll fly down to Dallas, and he's like, we kind of need it like next week. And I was like, oh, geez, and luckily I had a Monday, this was like a Wednesday or something, and I called the studio I knew and said, guys, can I book you for one of your free studio spots Monday morning? Work it out. Chris and his crew will get in touch with you. Booked it for 4 hours, and I fortunately didn't get any other gigs during that slot. I rolled in 4 hours, we banged it out. Chris was on at the beginning of the session, and then you had to take off. Who directed me?
Raleigh Pickens is the director.
Okay, he directed, great guy. And then we just had fun for 4 hours. I really wanted to make it seem, and I was actually glad, I remember I asked you, did you want me to sort of copy you're Vegeta, and that might be kind of funny. You went, no, I think you said that I want this to be the original, the higher pitch, the one that the fans remember. And I'm like, okay, we'll do that one. And that was Chris's thought. I might have gone the way closer to Chris's voice, but it was a great call to bring back the old school sound and just play with that. And it turned out even better than I thought it would too. It was great.
Recorded it from Ocean Studios?
No, I actually, it was a sound studio called Cosmic that I called up where I've got friends there, and I said, and I think I was working there that week, and I just went up and said, you guys got a free spit like Monday morning? I need something really fast. It's going to be a patch from Dallas, and they're like, yeah, we can do it, and we put it together. So yeah, great studio in Vancouver. We recorded a lot of stuff there.
Awesome. It's interesting because when you look at the production of the English dub, not every actor has to be in the studio at the same time. So sometimes it'll be recorded kind of out of order. Like Chris will do his lines Monday and then Eric will do his Wednesday. They could be in the same scene together. But in Japan, it's a different story. In Japan, oftentimes they all record together. Mr. Horikawa will be in the room with Masako Nozawa or whomever, and they'll do the scenes together. So my question is for Brian and Chris and Mr. Horikawa, but we'll start with Brian and Chris. Do you think it would be easier if you had the other person in the scene there in front of you to kind of method act off of, or is it not really a big deal?
I would take that 100 times to 1 every day to work off another actor. I do a lot of shows that are prelay where there's 5, 10 of us in a studio together, working on there's just the scripts in front of us. We don't have mouth flaps to match. We don't have times to match. You're creating every aspect of with the director of what's going to happen in that scene. You put it all together, and then because so much of acting is reacting, and it's great for another character can say their dialogue, and you can react to how they said that. But in dubbing, like you said many times, I may go in and do all Vegeta's lines, and I haven't, and the other characters haven't done theirs yet. So I don't have anyone else's performance to react to. I can't even say, oh, can I hear what Peter did with Goku? No, he hasn't come in yet. Oh, so I got to do a reaction line to something I haven't even heard yet. So you have to make everything up. It's kind of like an actor working on green screen, which you can still do. You've got to react to something that doesn't exist, that hasn't happened yet. Most actors will far prefer to be able to work off another performer. So, if I had an opportunity to do Dragon Ball with the full cast in the room, on a weekly basis, that would be unreal. It would just be a blast to do. So much fun.
Yeah.
質問したいんだけど、いいですか。
He'd like to ask the two of them a question.
Yeah.
ね、今言ってたみたいにアメリカとか例えばカナダの場合っていうのは全部一人一人抜き取りという形で取っていくでしょう。一緒に集まるということはないですよね。で、僕らは日本の場合はもう最初からみんなで集まってやるっていうのが、それが基本なので、あまりどっちがやりやすいかって考えたことはないんだけれど、僕としてはやっぱりお互いのなんかスタジオの中で雰囲気が分かって、芝居はそっちの方が合わせやすいから、やりやすいから、コミュニケーションできるから、感情も、読めるし、だから僕としてはそっちの方がやりやすいですけれど、まあでもスケジュールの関係で、例えば誰かがその日にはいられないとか、まあ僕でもそうなんですけど、その時は別の日にレコーディングするわけですよね。その時は完璧に一人だから、でその時他の人がもうすでにレコーディング終わってる状態のものをイヤホンで聞きながら、それで合わせてやるっていう、まあその時は一人っきりですけれど、通常は普通はみんなで一緒にやるということですね。だから僕的にはやっぱりみんなの顔を見ながら一緒にスタジオの中でやった方がセッションとしては合わせやすいかなです。
It wasn't really a question, more just a comment. So typically in Japan, we all record together in the studio, which I think makes it easier for us to communicate with each other, but with our feelings can connect with each other better. We can read each other's moods and react to each other. Though there are times when, because of scheduling difficulties, that we're not all able to get together, so sometimes an actor may have to come do a one-on-one session if they weren't able to make it to the recording. But I do feel that it is much easier to match with everybody else if we're all recording at the same time.
Now, the actor side of me agrees with both of you. The producer, director side of me says that's a very difficult task, and because at least in Western audiences are extremely used to like mouth movements that pretty much match the characters. Like it's very difficult. So there's so much of the process that's a technical process on top of it being an acting process that I'm just like, because there's so much more dubbed content in Japan, there's more understanding that they're not going to exactly match the mouth movements, but it's just too difficult for me to escape something that not looking right in the mouth. And it's so hard for me not to do it. I prefer to work off someone every day. And as the owner of the studio where we record the show, I usually give myself the luxury of being able to come in last. So I get to hear everybody else's performances, and then I get to make modifications to my line. So I kind of cheat in a way. I get literally the best seat. If you're the first person to record, it's like the worst, because you're just recording just dry, you're in this vacuum. But if you're the last person, you're essentially recording with everybody else.
Well, yes, certainly if the show's already animated, there's no, like having everyone in the group I would find that to be completely a difficult process, but I was more looking at it from the scope of if Dragon Ball Z wasn't even animated yet, and we actually got to just do it all, and then they animated to our performances after the fact. That's the way I really love to work, because then actually your facial movements, many times I'm filmed in performances, they say, can we come in, we're going to film you guys, and they film what we're doing with our faces when we're angry or we're joking or we're doing things, and the animators will use those to create the shows. And that's a prelay environment, and if there was a prelay environment of Dragon Ball, it would be amazing. It would be incredible.
There's one thing certain that I really want to ask you. All right, again.
Are you looking at the script while you're recording, or do you have all the lines memorized?
Whoa,
I haven't memorized a line in a really long time. No, script and screen.
Yeah, you see the script right here and the screen's right behind it. You're basically just having to follow both things at one time. Now, yes, but yours sometimes comes in as not finished, but sometimes yours is like an animatic with the mouth shape. Is that what happens sometimes? Or do you normally see the completely finished episode?
基本的に口パクというのは絶対に合わせるんですけれど、そこはすごく時間的にも正確に取っていくということをするんで、だからそういう意味ではなんていうのかな、レコーディングしたものを機械的にずらすことも確かにできるとは思うんだけれど、何度もやっぱりもっぺんリテイクして撮り直していくっていう場合が多いですかね。How many times does it take to record it?
Oh, me just once, you know. I'm joking. I'm kidding. It really varies. Like we try and do our best on the first take, but sometimes it can take 3 takes. And that's another thing that would worry me about recording Dragon Ball in a group setting, which blows my mind, is I feel that sometimes the screaming that you do in that show, I think it would be easier if I wasn't able to see anybody else. Like there'd be this like, I wouldn't mind if no one else was watching me during that, because it's pretty intense and you look ridiculous when you're doing it. So I can only imagine that it's like, is there anyone that you're ever nervous around to, like, are there any of the other cast members you can't even look at when you're screaming?
もう録音してる時って基本的に隣の人とかもう見えない状態っていうか、集中してるからあまり気にならないですね、僕的には。はい。
So what he said first was that anime in Japan is made on a time schedule, and sometimes they can delay for recording, but most of the time the animation won't be finished. Sometimes they'll put in a few more details and then go back and re-record. And that's when he asks, so how many times do you record? But when you record in the studio in Japan, you can't see the other people around you, because you concentrate and you step forward away from, so everyone's in the room but everyone's behind you and you can't see people around you at all.
It's really cool.
Yeah, that's very different. Prelay work, when we do stuff that's animated after the fact, many times we're in a circle around each other. There can be up to 10 people, so we're looking across. When you have a scene with someone right beside you, you can't get off the mic to talk to them, but you're right beside each other or across from each other in the room. So it's a very different process, uniquely different type of work.
Awesome. I do want to say on a personal note, real quick, it's crazy that Stacy there and I, we've been watching this series since the mid-90s, and we're here in this big kind of vegetable sandwich, because she's a piece of bread, I'm a piece of bread, and the vegetables are in the middle. It's just crazy. It's just crazy that we're here. So, this is for all of you. You have a great body of work. Every actor up here has a tremendous resume that speaks for itself, in different things too, you know, not just Dragon Ball, tons of different shows. Is Vegeta your favorite character you've ever voiced? And if not, who is it?
That's a loaded question for this audience, my friend. Well,
Be careful.
Vegeta, of course. yeah, of course it's Vegeta. Do you guys prefer honesty or that I lied to your...
Honestly, no clickbait.
Lie to me, man. Lie to me.
Lie to me, baby. Vegeta is one of my all-time favorite characters in animation. But not one of my all-time favorite characters to voice, because of how difficult it was and is, for those still doing it, to do. It is extremely taxing and very hard on the vocal cords, and dubbing work is far more difficult than prelay work, the precision that's involved. You have to work by yourself, not with a group, not as fun for me. I love working with people as opposed to alone. So that's where I put not as fun, but as far as character arc and who the character is and the journey he's been through, he's at the top of my list of all-time favorite characters. So for viewing, that's why I know he is for you too. But for work, when a Dragon Ball session would show up on my calendar from my agent, it was usually something like, that's what my head would do. And when, how long? You have 2 sessions of Dragon Ball Z next week. Oh God. Can you put them on a Friday so I can have Saturday and Sunday to recuperate? That's sort of where I sit with Vegeta.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, he said it. It's really hard. It's so, I guess, maybe you probably are aware of that. And I know going into a session that it's going to take all of my, all the power I have to even get through it sometimes. But as a character, like, it's hard for me to compare it to anything, because who else other than like some of the most famous iconic characters in animation gets to play a character for 20 years. Like, And anyone who thinks that he just like went away is wrong, because there was video games, there was recuts, and there was the orange boxes and the yellow boxes and the Kai, and so Vegeta's never left. And it's also hard for me to separate how Vegeta has impacted my life in general, like me as a person, like my whole, I don't even know who I would be now. Like my whole identity is connected with that character. I'd be nobody. I'd be nobody. You're right though. I don't know what I would be. And so it was such a, I don't know, it sucks to have to scream that loud and to know that I'm gonna have flu-like symptoms the next day. But Dragon Ball Z has given me so much that I don't have a choice, because if I don't scream my butt off, Sean's gonna scream better than I do, and I don't want that to happen.
役者っていうのは自分がやった役っていうのは愛さないとできないもんなんですよ、どんなキャラクターであれ。でもちろん全てのキャラクターを愛してるって言えばすごくかっこよくは聞こえるとは思うんですが、クリスが言ったようにもう何年も何十年もやってるともう離れられないというか、どうしてもそういうなんていうのかな、長寿番組っていうかになってくるとそこから離れることができないので、もうどうしても付き合わなきゃいけないわけですよ。何十年も一緒になんか生活を共にするみたいな感じで、そうなると他のキャラクターは大事にやってるつもりなんですけど、各作品のどうしても何十年もやってるってなるとそこから離れられないんで、必然的にもう好きにならずにいられないというか、付き合いが長いですからだから人生の一部と言いますかね、そんな感じですかね。はい。
As an actor, I don't think you can play a character unless you really love them. So of course I love all of the characters that I play. Though with Vegeta, we've been a part of each other for so many decades now that I just can't separate myself from him. So he's just so much a part of my life, and I feel like we both grew up in all these decades that I've been playing this role. And so yeah, so it's been just such a long time, and it's always going to be a part of my life.
Almost 32 years.
Wow.
Vegeta is one of the coolest characters ever. I've played Dr. Claw, I've played Wolverine, I've played Venom, and Vegeta, honestly, he's still at the top.
So you mentioned how it's taxing on your voice. What is your absolute all-time favorite recording session that you've had with Vegeta, whether it be a taxing one where maybe you felt sore the next day but you said, you know what, I nailed it, or maybe it's more of like an emotional scene. For example, I don't think Chris has gotten to this yet in the Super dub, but there's a scene in Super where Vegeta's trying to name his daughter, like he has to figure out what to name her, and it's very adorable. So what kind of scenes that you've done throughout your career as Vegeta stand out as being like ones where you're like, yeah, like this was awesome, like you felt good about yourself because there was something magical like that night or that day in the studio? You could be screaming or not, it's up to you.
I mean, I don't have to explain why this scene was great, but just the moment where Vegeta does sacrifice himself and he puts his arm around his son, like, I'm sorry, you have to have a heart of stone to play Vegeta, but it crushed me, man. Like, it just crushed me, and it was a difficult, emotional recording session, because back in those days we were working so hard to get the show on TV every week that we didn't even know what was happening. We didn't even have the materials up until the end of the show. So I didn't even know what was going to happen to Vegeta as things went along. So it was when he became a Super Saiyan, I was like, oh wow, that's awesome. And I think in a way, it's kind of the way that Ryo got to experience the series, because he didn't know what the future was going to be either. We've had conversations about this. Like, one of the funniest things he ever said to me was, man, when I first started working on the show, I didn't even know if I was going to make it 20 episodes, because people die in this show. So, yeah, man, it's that was probably my favorite scene. Yeah, easily.
Eh, そうだな、僕もやっぱりここではっきり変わったと思うんです。今までのベジータっていうのは自分のためだけに戦ってきた、自分が強くなるためだけに戦ってきたのが、初めて家族を守るために自分を犠牲にしていくという、そこら辺がもう変わりつつあるというか、今までのヒールだっただけの男が初めて人のために犠牲になるということをした戦いだと思うんです。最初の魔人ブーと戦った時だと思うんだけど、そういうところが一番好きかな。で、あとそういうことで言うならば、やっぱりトランクスに「お前を抱いたことがないから抱かせてくれ」というところが一番好きですね、シーン的には。
Like Chris, I have the same scene where Vegeta sacrificed himself against Majin Buu. At that time, we saw his heart change from how he'd been before. The first time, he wasn't just fighting for himself, he was fighting for his family to protect people. And so he made that sacrifice, and especially at the moment when he said to Trunks that, "I've never held you before, let me hold you now," that was really amazing. Really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, what they said. Honestly, I was probably, in remembering work in different scenes, I was probably the giddiest school kid in doing this 4 hours of copy Vegeta recently. When I got to be back in the room and working on those scenes, I was just, this is mostly because of what I knew was going to happen. I'm like, this is good. People are going to just love this. And I just thought Chris had such a great idea to do it. That's when I was probably the most pumped about an episode, going, this is going to be fun. Oh, they're going to like this.
So I could talk to these guys all night, but I'm not allowed to. We can't be here all night. But before we close out the Prince of All panels, I would like a special request from Mr. Drummond, Mr. Sabat, and Mr. Horikawa. We've seen you guys kill your vocal cords for decades and still live to tell about it. And we've seen Mr. Horikawa do Final Flash, but I want to do something a little bit different to close out this epic first, maybe last time ever, hopefully not, but it is the first time ever that you're all in the same room. Can we do a triple Big Bang attack?
I mean, aren't we supposed to hear the Japanese and reference it first? I mean, isn't that how it works?
You gotta hear.
At the same time?
At the same time. In fact, it would be cool if they could stand next to each other and put their arms out like they're going to really nail someone. Can we do that to close out? Let's go! How about, can I count you down? I'll be the 3 dots.
I'm gonna be following you, okay?
I'm gonna say 3, 2, 1, go, and then you go. All right, ready?
All right.
Okay.
There we go.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Big Bang!